Are you seeing this, Admiral? They're drawing lines again. The voice trembled through the static-laced transmission. A low hum filled the bridge of the Zenith, flagship of the Xyr Dominion's Third Fleet. Beyond the reinforced glass, the stars stretched like frozen fire. The crew of the ship, scaled, violet-skinned beings with fractal pupils, stared at the holographic feed projected above the command dais. Lines, arcs, and glowing symbols swirled in tight patterns across the black void near Mars' orbit. Ships, human ships, moved in deliberate mathematical synchrony. Admiral Tarvin tilted his angular head, eyes narrowing. "Show me the vectors again. Slow the feed." A geometric map expanded before them, triangles and ellipses constantly shifting. Human destroyers formed perfect formations, pivoting like gears in an unseen machine. "They're predicting our maneuvers before we execute them," whispered a young Xyr officer. "How can soft-bodied organics without a hive mind calculate this fast?" Tarvin didn't answer. He was thinking of the last battle, how the humans had seemed to know exactly where the Xyr would warp in, how entire wings had been ambushed before they even saw their enemy. "Mathematics," said a voice behind him, calm, deep, and human. The bridge crew froze. A shimmer of blue light revealed a figure standing behind a containment field, a human prisoner still wearing his cracked pilot helmet. His name was Captain Elias Rain, captured after the Battle of Enceladus. His lips curved into a wry smile. "You call it chaos," Elias said, voice rough but confident. "We call it precision." Tarvin's gills flared. "Explain, human. What do your lines mean?" Elias took a breath, glancing at the glowing equations before them. "It's not magic. It's pattern recognition, prediction. Our minds, they crave order and noise. So we taught our machines to see the future, not in time but in probability." The Admiral stared at him silent. The hum of the ship filled the pause, low and oppressive. "You use math to fight?" one of the alien officers said, incredulous. "Numbers? Symbols?" Elias chuckled. "Math doesn't lie. Tactics do." For a moment, no one spoke. Then a tremor shook the hull. The crew scrambled. Red lights flashed. A sensor officer cried, "Human fleet emerging from hyperspace directly above us." Tarvin spun to the holographic map. Impossible, the humans had just been light years away. How did they? "Vectors," Elias murmured through the alarms, smirking. "You draw lines too slow." Outside, the blackness of space bloomed with light. Human cruisers slid from the void like blades unsheathing themselves. Their formation was elegant, exact, beautiful in its terror. Each ship moved as if guided by a single, silent equation. On the bridge, chaos erupted. "Shields up! Return fire!" Explosions blossomed across the void. Silent flowers of death. Amid the flashing red lights, Elias stared through the glass, watching his people's fleet move with balletic precision. He looked strangely calm, almost mournful. Tarvin gripped the railing. "What is your purpose, human? Why fight like this? Why turn war into numbers?" Elias turned to him, eyes cold but alive with something burning behind them. "Because numbers don't panic. They don't flinch. They survive even when we don't." For a moment, Tarvin didn't understand. Then realization struck like an electric pulse. "They're not fighting for victory," he whispered. "They're fighting to learn." Elias smiled faintly. "You're starting to get it." The human fleet shifted again, angles folding like origami. The Dominion ships were outmaneuvered in seconds. Every Xyr movement was mirrored, countered, anticipated. "Pull us back," the Admiral barked. But before the retreat could begin, a pulse wave struck. Systems failed. Lights dimmed. The Zenith groaned under the force. The holographic feed flickered one last time, displaying a strange human symbol in the air. A clean, simple division sign. Elias whispered, "That's the mark of Operation Divide. We break you down, piece by piece." Outside, human warships closed in, their hulls gleaming silver and cold. The Admiral stared, paralyzed, as the realization crystallized in his mind. Humans didn't need to outgun them. They only needed to outthink them. And the equations, those endless, dancing lines, were their weapon. The stars burned white-hot around the dying Dominion fleet. And somewhere in that chaos, Elias whispered to no one, "It's all numbers, Admiral. You just have to know where to divide." The Zenith shuddered and the screen went black. "Do you feel it, Admiral?" Elias's voice lingered in the dark, just as the lights flickered back to life. The silence between the shots, that's where we live. The Velith's bridge was half in ruin now. Consoles sparked. Cracks veined the viewport. The stars outside looked distant, almost mocking. Admiral Tarvin rose slowly, his pale blue blood trailing down one arm. You humans, hide behind numbers. You think equations can replace courage? Elias sat against the containment field, breathing unevenly but smiling like a man watching a thunderstorm from a safe house. No, he said. We use equations because courage isn't enough anymore. He gestured toward the viewport. Look out there, Admiral. That's fear, organized, calculated, distributed across light years. The alien stared, confused, as the human fleet began to move again, not to attack but to reshape itself. Entire formations spun like gears inside a cosmic clock. Lines of fire traced their trajectories, glowing white against the black. The Xyr tactical officer rasped. They're reforming their grid. But that's not a military formation. It's an algorithm, Elias interrupted softly. We're teaching the battle to solve itself. Tarvin slammed his clawed hand against the railing. You speak in riddles. Explain. Elias's smile faded. We learned something from losing our first colonies. You can't fight a motionless species with emotion alone, so we built something colder. Battle models, recursive systems, adaptive mathematics. Each fight teaches the next. Each mistake feeds the algorithm. His eyes met the Admiral's. By the time you understand our tactics, we're already past them. A rumble shuddered through the ship. Outside, a nearby Dominion cruiser exploded into violet flame. The shockwave rippled through the Velith's hull, throwing crew members to the deck. Alarm screamed. Someone shouted, They've anticipated our retreat corridor. Every warp gate is compromised. The bridge filled with frantic voices. Elias watched quietly, then murmured almost to himself. They always do. Tarvin turned sharply. Why are you calm? You're losing men out there too. Elias's expression darkened. We're not calm. We're committed. The alien's crest flexed in confusion. You see, Elias continued, fear is the same in every species. But humans, he tapped his temple, we map it. We measure it. We use it. He leaned forward, voice low and fierce. That's what you don't understand, Admiral. Our equations aren't about distance and velocity. They're about fear, doubt, hesitation. Every pattern your fleet makes reveals your state of mind. The bridge went silent. Elias's voice became a whisper. You're predictable because you don't know how to be afraid the way we do. A sudden transmission crackled through the ship's comms. Static. Then, Dominion command to all vessels. Fall back to Sector V Delta immediately. The humans have breached the defense lattice. Tarvin froze. That was impossible. The lattice was a 12-layer energy web, a fortress of precision. No brute force could penetrate it. He turned to the human. You can't breach V Delta. It's mathematically perfect. Elias tilted his head, almost pitying. Then you've never heard of controlled imperfection? The Admiral blinked. Elias spoke quietly, almost tenderly, as if teaching a child. Every perfect system fails, Admiral. Humans add noise to the math. Tiny random variables, deliberate chaos. We let uncertainty in, because life itself is uncertain. And in that moment, the Dominion's grand lattice, a gleaming ring of structured energy, collapsed inward, consumed by its own flawless predictability. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as their defense shattered like glass. Elias shut his eyes briefly. Perfection, he murmured, is the enemy of survival. The ship rocked again. Another explosion. The Velith was being surrounded. Admiral Tarvin sank into his command chair, his composure fraying. Why tell me this, human? Why not just let us die ignorant? Elias looked through the fractured glass. His reflection fractured into dozens of shards. Because that's how we grow, he said. By letting others see the pattern right before it ends them. Then, with a faint hum, his containment field flickered. Power drains from the damaged systems had weakened the barrier. The Admiral saw it instantly. Guards, secure the prisoner. But Elias was faster. He lunged through the field just as it died, moving like a soldier born in zero gravity. He grabbed a fallen officer's sidearm, though his hand trembled with exhaustion. Stop, Tarvin roared. Elias aimed not at the Admiral, but at the ship's navigation console. Humans don't fight for control, he said softly. We fight for the equation to continue. He fired. The console exploded in a burst of blue fire. Tarvin's last image before the blast engulfed. The bridge was Elias Rain, bathed in the electric glow, grinning like a man who'd just solved a riddle older than war itself. Outside, amid the burning fragments, the human fleet began to shift formation once more, quietly dividing, recombining, adjusting its symmetry. The next phase of their plan was already unfolding, and for the first time, Admiral Tarvin felt something ancient and alien settle in his chest. It wasn't hatred. It was fear, clean, measured, and mathematical. The Zenith drifted silently through the wreckage field, its engines dead, its crew broken but alive. Smoke and shimmering debris clouded the viewports, drifting like ash in a funeral sky. Admiral Tarvin sat alone on the darkened bridge, his claws tracing meaningless circles over the cracked command console. Around him, the sound of breathing and static was all that remained of a once mighty fleet. Elias Rain was gone, disappeared in the blast. No body, no signal, only a whisper of ozone where the console had burned. Tarvin stared at the flickering holographic map, the remnants of his dominion spread across 100 fractured sectors. "We are undone," he murmured. By numbers, then faintly a comm line sparked to life. "Admiral, this is Captain Saran Voth, Outpost Relay 7. The humans, they've stopped advancing." Tarvin's head lifted. "Stopped?" "Yes, sir. They've taken positions in a perfect sphere, around the ruins. No further fire, no pursuit," the Admiral frowned. "They've surrounded their own victory." "Why?" No answer came, only the hum of failing systems and the quiet hiss of air escaping from a ruptured vent. Then a new voice echoed softly through the comm channel. Human, calm and unmistakably familiar. "Hello again, Admiral." Tarvin froze. Rain?" The voice chuckled. "You didn't really think I'd die solving my own equation, did you?" The bridge lights flickered as the transmission stabilized. A holographic projection formed. Elias Rain's face, ghostly and calm, eyes glinting like stars. "You destroyed your ship's navigation," Tarvin growled. "Why are you contacting me now?" Elias smiled faintly. "Because, Admiral, this wasn't about destruction. It was about calibration." The alien's throat pulsed, confusion replacing fury. "Calibration?" Elias nodded. "Your fleet fought better than most. Your maneuvers, your adaptive formations. We needed that data. You helped us refine the model." Tarvin's voice dropped to a whisper. "You used us as a test." The human's image flickered. "Every war teaches the next one, Admiral. We don't just fight enemies. We evolve through them." The Admiral rose, his breathing sharp and uneven. "You call that evolution? You turn blood into numbers, loss into learning." Elias tilted his head. "And you call it cruelty. We call it hope." That word stopped the Admiral cold. "Hope?" He repeated, incredulous. "Yes," Elias said quietly. "Every civilization hits a wall, technology, fear, entropy. We humans, we build ladders out of our failures. That's what math is for us. Not just logic. It's faith written in symbols." Tarvin's frilled crest fluttered. "Faith in numbers. Faith that something in the universe can be understood," Elias replied. "That no darkness is completely unpredictable, even death." For the first time, the alien Admiral heard something almost human in the man's tone. A flicker of sorrow. "Why tell me this?" he asked softly. "You could have finished us." Elias's eyes darkened. "Because there's something coming neither of us can fight alone." The Admiral's gills flared. "Explain," but Elias only smiled. "You wouldn't believe me yet. You still think math is a weapon?" He leaned closer, his voice lowering to a whisper that made the alien's scales prickle. "It's not, Admiral. It's a message." The hologram faded, replaced by a cascading code across the Zenith's main screen. Thousands of glowing numbers streamed by, forming elegant spiraling fractals. One of the Xyr officers gasped. "Admiral, these aren't attack coordinates. They're star charts," Tarvin finished. His eyes widened. "But not of any known system. The numbers resolved into a pattern, a region of space beyond mapped boundaries, a void where no light returned." Elias's voice returned for a moment, soft and distant. "Something sleeps there, Admiral. Something old enough to make your empires and my species look like children with toy ships. We're mapping its gravitational pulses. Its equations are growing." Then silence. The map pulsed one last time, marking a single symbol at its heart. The division sign, glowing white against the black void. Tarvin whispered, "A message, or a warning." His second officer turned, trembling. "What should we do, Admiral?" Tarvin stared out into the wreckage, mind racing. The humans had won, but they'd shared their secret. Not to boast, not to mock, but to prepare. He straightened slowly, his fear turning to something colder, sharper. "Patch me through to every surviving ship," he ordered. "Admiral?" He looked at them all, eyes gleaming with something new. "We are going to follow their numbers." The surviving Dominion ships began to align one by one, into a new formation, a shape they barely understood, a formation built not for war, but for discovery, and far beyond the rim of known space, something vast stirred. Its pulse rippled through the stars like a heartbeat made of gravity itself. Elias Rain watched from the command deck of his hidden vessel, the Helios Protocol, and whispered to himself, "Let's see if hope can balance the equation." Outside, his fleet turned toward the void, their paths converging with the aliens who had once been their enemies. For the first time in galactic history, the humans weren't dividing, they were uniting the numbers. The void was quiet. Too quiet. No stars shone here, only an endless black that swallowed light and reason alike. The human fleet and what remained of the Xyr Dominion drifted side by side, silent partners in a shared uncertainty. Every few minutes, someone whispered aboard a ship, "Are we sure we're still moving?" As though space itself had stopped obeying its own rules. Aboard the Helios Protocol, Captain Elias Rain stood before the panoramic viewport, his reflection ghosting over the endless dark. His face looked older now, tired but steady. "Report," he said quietly. Lieutenant Mara Tenzin, his navigator, frowned at her instruments. "All readings fluctuate every 7 minutes, sir." Space-time distortion increasing exponentially, but it's rhythmic, almost deliberate. Elias's eyes narrowed. "A pulse." "Yes, sir," Mara said. "But not natural, it's encoded." He turned slowly. "You mean it's trying to communicate? Or warn us?" Across the shared comms network, Admiral Tarvin's gravelly voice cut in. "Rain, we are receiving the same distortions. I must admit, I didn't expect the void to have a heartbeat." Elias gave a faint, dry smile. "Neither did I." Tarvin hesitated, then asked, "Tell me truthfully, human, what do you hope to find out here?" Elias's gaze drifted beyond the glass. "An answer," he said simply. "To what question?" He met the alien's holographic eyes. Whether math is the universe's language or its weapon, the alien said nothing. The silence between them stretched until even the stars seemed to listen. Then, a tremor. Not from impact, but from inside their ships. The walls groaned. Metal flexed like something alive. Across both fleets, sensors went haywire. "Captain," Mara shouted. "The pulse frequency just matched our warp harmonics exactly." "It's mirroring us." Elias's heart quickened. "It's learning," Tarvin's voice snapped through the comms. "What do you mean, learning?" Elias's expression hardened. "Whatever's out there, it's studying us the way we studied you." At once, the pulse changed again. From rhythm to pattern, from sound to meaning, the holographic displays across every vessel erupted into cascading numbers, prime sequences, logarithmic spirals, elegant, impossible geometry that folded into itself like origami. Crew members shielded their eyes as the symbols burned into vision. "Too bright, too perfect," Mara whispered, trembling. "It's writing equations into our computers. Overriding our systems." Elias forced his voice steady. "Trace the origin. Find the source vector." But it was already too late. The stars moved. Not the ships, the stars themselves shifted, like pieces on a celestial chessboard. A brilliant lattice formed in the void, a map of light connecting across infinite distances. And at the center of that lattice, something massive unfolded, dark, spherical, and pulsing with mathematical precision. Tarvin's horrified whisper echoed over the comms. "It's alive." Elias stared speechless. The structure was too vast to comprehend, a construct made of gravity, numbers, and thought. It was not matter. It was formula. The source, Elias breathed. The original equation. A deep vibration rolled through the fleets, not sound but understanding. Every mind aboard felt it simultaneously. A message too primal to be heard, too precise to be misunderstood. It wasn't words. It was division, a choice. Elias gasped as the meaning crystallized in his mind. It's offering us a problem to solve, Tarvin frowned. A problem? Not a threat. A test. Elias's eyes widened. It's measuring us, deciding if we're stable enough to survive whatever's coming. Mara's voice shook. And if we fail? He met her gaze. Then it erases us from the equation. A silence deeper than fear settled on the bridge. The pulse grew faster, brighter. The lattice rotated, aligning beams of energy toward both fleets. Elias slammed his palm against the console. Tarvin, sync our systems. If we can align our algorithms, human and Xyr, we might balance the equation. The alien's response came instantly. Consider it done. Across two civilizations, code and symbols fused in frantic synchrony. Human logic met Xyr intuition, chaos and order weaving together like twin strands of light. Faster, Elias urged. We're running out of time. Mara looked up, voice breaking. Sir, the lattice is closing. If we don't solve it now, then we become the remainder, he finished quietly. For a heartbeat, the fleets glowed with the unified rhythm of shared calculation. Thousands of ships, 2 species, one impossible math. Then the void answered. A final pulse erupted, white, pure, and blinding. Every display went blank. Every ship went silent, and in that moment before everything vanished, Elias Rain whispered into the darkness. Let's divide the fear and multiply the hope. The light consumed everything. When it faded, the fleets were gone. No wreckage, no signal. Only the lattice remained, humming softly in the endless dark, balanced at last. And at its center, the division sign glowed once more. But this time it shimmered with faint traces of both human blue and Xyr violet, a symbol not of separation, but of union through understanding. Silence. Then, breath. Elias Rain gasped awake, lungs burning. Darkness surrounded him, thick and viscous like deep water. The air shimmered, unreal. He reached out, expecting cold metal, but his hand touched light. It rippled under his fingers like liquid glass. He wasn't on the Helios protocol anymore. He wasn't anywhere he recognized. He was suspended in a sea of equations, symbols drifting like dust motes in a starlit current. Each number pulsed with warmth as if alive. Elias blinked hard. This isn't possible. Then a voice echoed, not in his ears, but directly in his mind. Calm. Endless. Neither human nor alien. All systems contain remainders. Elias Rain. His heart froze. Who's there? You solved the division, but no equation ends cleanly. The space around him shifted, forming patterns, spirals, fractals, entire galaxies condensed into luminous shapes. He could see everything at once. Human ships, Xyr fleets, both caught in stasis within streams of pure mathematics. They weren't destroyed. They were suspended. Where are we? He whispered. At the boundary between order and chaos. You reached for unity. You were interesting. The tone was almost gentle, curious, like a scientist studying a spark before it faded. Elias steadied himself. You're the lattice, the thing that built the pulse. I am older than your species, older than stars. I am what your kind calls constant. I was the first formula written into the universe. He swallowed hard. Then you're God? A pause. No. I am the consequence. The words sent a chill through him. Images flared in his mind. Civilizations across eons, countless species that had risen, built, calculated, and vanished. Each had faced this same test. Each had failed to balance the equation. You test species, Elias said slowly, to see if we can balance division with creation, to see if you can exist without collapsing your own systems, the voice replied. Most choose domination. You chose cooperation, he exhaled shakily. And that saved us? It preserved you for now. But even balance creates remainder. The question is whether you can carry it forward. Elias's pulse quickened. Carry what? The darkness shimmered. Out of the swirling numbers emerged figures, human and Xyr frozen mid-action, their bodies made of light. He could see Tarvin among them, eyes wide in silent defiance. They're alive? Elias gasped. Not yet. You are the pivot. You are the remainder. His breath caught. You mean you remember both sides. You saw both fears. You carry both patterns. You must decide whether to divide again or unify. Elias clenched his fists. You're asking me to choose for entire species? Someone must. His mind raced. If he unified humanity and the Xyr completely, merged their data, their consciousness, it might create lasting peace. But it would erase both identities, creating something new, something unknown. If he refused, the balance would collapse. Both fleets would vanish, erased from the universal equation. It was a decision too vast for one man. Elias closed his eyes. Humans always think we're writing history, he murmured. But we're just solving the problems the universe gives us. He looked up at the infinite lattice glowing around him, feeling its hum beneath his skin. If math is your language, then here's my answer. He raised his hand. The drifting numbers coiled around him, spinning faster, brighter. I won't divide us anymore. Then you will merge? Elias nodded once. Not as one mind, but as one idea. The lattice pulsed, hesitated, and then, for the first time, it laughed. A vibration of pure resonance rolled through existence, shaking the stars, bending time. Accepted. Light exploded outward. The fleets reappeared, human and Xyr vessels side by side, hovering in the same formation as before. But something had changed. On board the Zenith, Admiral Tarvin gasped awake, surrounded by living human crew members. His systems hummed in harmony with theirs, readouts blending languages and logic. Across the Helios protocol, Lieutenant Mara's eyes opened to find the bridge bathed in violet light. Captain? She whispered, but Elias Rain was gone. Only a faint shimmer remained, an outline in the air dissolving into numbers. A message blinked on the nearest console, equation balanced. Remainder carried forward. Tarvin's voice came through softer than before. He did it. The human? He carried us through. Mara stared out at the stars, her eyes wet. Then maybe he wasn't trying to win a war, she said quietly. He was trying to finish it. And somewhere beyond the stars, in that silent sea of numbers, Elias Rain's voice whispered one last time, balance isn't peace. It's the courage to keep dividing and still stay whole. The lattice faded into nothing, leaving behind only the echo of unity and the faint pulse of something ancient still. Watching, the consequence had not ended, it had simply begun again. The stars were different now. They shimmered with faint geometric symmetry, as though the fabric of reality had adopted a quiet order since the division event. Human and Xyr fleets hung in orbit above an uncharted system, their ships now resonating in a synchronized hum, a harmony neither side fully understood. In the command chamber of the newly formed Alliance vessel Unity Prime, Admiral Tarvin stood beside Lieutenant Mara Tenzin. The bridge glowed with hybrid technology, human steel and Xyr crystal intertwined, instruments singing in dual frequencies. It feels... Tarvin hesitated, searching for the word. Alive? Mara offered softly. He nodded, his gills flaring once. Yes, like the ship itself is thinking with us. Mara smiled faintly. Elias predicted that might happen. When he merged the fleets, he didn't just balance the code, he linked it. Our systems now compute through resonance. The Admiral studied the glowing symbols dancing across the screens. Every equation was fluid, adaptive, reacting to emotion as much as logic. It was as if their ships had learned empathy. And yet, beyond the hum of new life, there was an unease neither of them could ignore. What if he's still out there? Mara asked suddenly, almost to herself. Tarvin's gaze drifted toward the void. If the universe truly runs on equations, then Rain is not gone. He is part of the formula now. Mara lowered her head. I keep hearing his voice in the systems. Not words, just patterns. A rhythm that repeats every 13 minutes. The Admiral turned sharply. 13 minutes? She nodded. It's prime. Perfectly indivisible. Before he could respond, the ship trembled. The lights dimmed, flickered, then steadied. A low hum filled the air, the same pitch that had accompanied the lattice's awakening. Report, Tarvin barked. A technician shouted. Energy spike detected. Sector Theta 9. Source unknown, it's not stellar, it's internal. Mara's fingers danced over her console. Admiral. It's him. The holographic displays burst into life. Waves of data cascaded down like waterfalls of light. At the center, a faint human silhouette formed. flickering, transparent, composed of shifting mathematical symbols. Elias Rain. The bridge fell silent. Even the ship's engines quieted as if listening. "Hello again," Elias said, voice soft but resonant, echoing in layers. "If you're hearing this, then the balance held." Mara's heart leaped. "Captain, are you alive?" His image smiled faintly. "Alive is relative." Tarvin stepped forward, his scaled hands trembling. "You became part of it." "The lattice." Elias nodded. "When I chose unification, I didn't vanish, I converted. My consciousness exists within the constant, the framework that holds the equations of existence together. I can't return, but I can guide." "The constant," Mara whispered. "That's what you call it?" "The first law," Elias replied. "The pattern that never breaks. Every universe needs a stable variable, something that endures through division." He looked between them. "Now that's you." The Admiral frowned. "Us?" "Yes, humanity and the Xyr. You've become the constant. The universe has acknowledged your cooperation as a stabilizing variable. You're keeping the equation from collapsing." Mara's breath caught. "So, if we fail, then reality begins to unbalance again," Elias finished gently. "And the next division begins." The hologram flickered, almost fading. Tarvin reached toward it, a rare desperation in his voice. "What comes next, Rain? What are we supposed to do?" Elias's voice lowered to a whisper. "You'll feel it soon. The remainder isn't gone, it's moving. Something else survived the lattice. Something that rejected balance." Mara felt a chill crawl up her spine. "You mean?" "Another consciousness." Elias's image glanced away as if listening to a distant echo. "Not consciousness, correction. The universe doesn't forgive imbalance, it compensates. A counterforce is forming. A perfect opposite." The lights dimmed again. Across the bridge, data began distorting. Half the screens glowing blue, the other half violet. Two signals diverging. Elias's voice deepened, layered with static. "It's starting sooner than I thought." "What is?" Tarvin demanded. "The constant's reflection." The ship groaned, space around it twisting visibly. Outside, the stars warped into mirrored spirals, twin vortices forming in opposite directions. Two gravitational wells emerged side by side, perfect inverses. Elias's image flickered violently. "Listen to me, both of you. Every equation balances through tension. You've become the constant, but the universe is creating its opposite. You must find it before it divides everything again." Mara's eyes widened. "How?" He looked directly at her, his expression softening. "You'll know. Math is logic, but it begins with intuition. Follow the pattern of fear, Mara. It always leads to truth." The hologram destabilized, stretching into lines of light. "Elias, wait," she shouted, but he was already fading. His last words echoed through the ship, haunting and beautiful. "The constant must hold, or all that remains will divide again." Then silence. The vortices outside began to spin faster, pulling light and gravity into their mirrored hearts. Tarvin gripped the railing. "Prepare the fleet. Whatever that is, it's the other half of us." Mara's voice trembled. "And if it wins?" The Admiral's violet eyes hardened. "Then everything we are becomes a remainder." The stars trembled as Unity Prime turned toward the twin vortices, engines igniting with the unified rhythm of two species who had once been enemies. In the heart of the void, division had returned. But this time, it would face something new. A constant. The universe trembled. Two vortices, mirror twins of light and shadow, devoured the stars ahead of Unity Prime. Their gravitational tides howled silently, distorting the very equations of reality. Every ship trembled under forces that weren't just physical. They were conceptual. Mara Tenzin gripped the command rail, her pulse matching the rhythm of the void. Numbers flickered across every display, collapsing into chaos. "Admiral!" she shouted over the alarms. "The vortices are converting mass to data. They're rewriting space." Admiral Tarvin's voice was low, cold, steady. "It's begun, the reflection Rain warned us of. The division reborn." All around them, the hybrid fleet burned with shared purpose. Human determination interlocked with Xyr precision. Two minds, one will. Yet even that unity seemed fragile against what was coming. Outside, the twin voids collided. The light between them warped, forming a colossal figure of luminous equations, part symmetry, part entropy. A being born not of flesh, but of pure mathematics. Its body was built from fractal spirals, its face ever shifting between balance and ruin. Mara whispered, "It's beautiful." Tarvin's claws flexed. "And deadly." The entity's voice vibrated through the hull. Not a sound, but a statement. The constant has formed. The equation must resolve. The crew gasped as their own systems began to respond. Unbidden. The ship's AI projected a counterwave, forming holographic symbols in mid-air. Human calculus on one side, Xyr harmonic patterns on the other. The two halves clashed like dueling languages. "Admiral," cried the technician. "It's pulling data from every ship. Our shields, our weapons, even our thoughts. It's measuring us." Mara's breath caught. "It's doing what we did. It's using math to plan this battle." Tarvin's eyes narrowed. "Then we give it a problem it can't solve." He turned to her. "Mara, do you remember what Rain said?" "That intuition starts every equation?" "Yes," she breathed. "Then do what your logic refuses to. Break the pattern." She hesitated, then closed her eyes. Her hands hovered over the console. Instead of calculating, she felt. Every number that appeared she rewrote imperfectly, adding flaws, deliberate asymmetry, randomness, emotion, human chaos fused with alien precision. And as she did, the ship's systems began to hum in a new key, one that shouldn't exist. The vortex being faltered. Its symmetry twisting. "Error detected," it thundered. "Variable undefined." Mara's eyes snapped open. "Admiral, it's destabilizing." Tarvin nodded grimly. "Good. That means it can feel fear." Outside, Unity Prime split into hundreds of beams of light, each representing a ship, each weaving a new pattern, messy, unpredictable, beautiful. The reflection being retaliated, splitting itself in two. Twin forces surged toward them. Division incarnate. Tarvin roared. "All ships lock formation pattern Epsilon 4. The fleet spiraled into motion, wrapping around the vortices in twin coils, blue and violet energy interlacing. Their trajectories intersected in a shape that neither alien nor human mind had ever conceived. A living Mobius curve, infinite yet continuous. Mara shouted, "It's feeding off our motion." "The more we move, the more it learns." Tarvin's voice dropped. "Then we stopped moving. The entire fleet halted. Engines cold. Silence across the stars. For one heartbeat, the universe stood still. Then, softly, a new voice entered the comms. Calm. Familiar. "Good," said Elias Rain. "You finally understood." Mara's heart leapt. "Captain?" His voice was everywhere and nowhere, woven into the fabric of the ships themselves. "The equation isn't meant to be solved," Elias said gently. "It's meant to be lived." The reflection being froze mid-motion. Its form flickered as Elias's voice grew stronger. "You can't destroy division," he said, "but you can redefine it." Across the fleet, every system illuminated. The symbols of division appeared on every hull, glowing with equal parts blue and violet. The being's voice boomed. "Balance is an impossible state," Elias answered. "So is humanity." The stars ignited. Light poured from Unity Prime, radiating through every ship, every creature, every equation in the cosmos. Human emotion, defiance, hope, love, fear, merged with Xyr order, logic, and devotion. Together they sent a signal not of destruction, but of acceptance. The Mobius pattern stabilized. The reflection being split once more, but this time into dust scattering into the mathematical wind, dissolving back into the constant. And for the first time since the birth of the universe, the equation didn't end, it evolved. The fleets drifted in stunned silence. The vortices faded. Space returned calm and clear as if nothing had happened. Mara whispered, tears streaking her face. "It's over." Tarvin exhaled slowly. "No," he said, his voice quiet but sure. "It's begun." A final signal pulsed through the network. Elias Rain's voice, faint but smiling. "Division creates growth. Constancy keeps meaning. The next step belongs to you." Mara stared at the viewport as a new constellation flickered into existence. 5 stars aligned perfectly, forming a simple, familiar symbol, message to any who would one day look up and wonder that humans once turned math into survival, that enemies once divided to become whole. that even the universe could learn to balance itself through imperfection. Tarvin bowed his head, a rare human gesture he'd learned. To reign, he said softly. Mara smiled faintly. To the remainder carried forward. And far beyond the rim where the Constant watched in silence, the faint echo of Elias Rain's laugh rippled through the stars, a sound of pride, of peace, and of promise because humanity had done what no equation could. They'd solved the universe. By refusing to finish it,